Countdown has begun. Death Aura is here for game 1 of Shadown versus Harstem. The winner of this best of 5 is going to qualify into DreamHack Winter. We do kind of assume that both of them will eventually qualify, but isn't it nice to qualify in the first qualifier? Wouldn't it just be so nice? In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, he is Shadown. In the top left, as the red Protoss, he is Team Liquid's Harstem. You know him, you love him. He's quite popular on YouTube now. Officially, hashtag content creator. Doing stuff that a lot of people have been begging players to do for a long time. Actually making content, actually having a separate source of revenue. Because, you know, I think even if you're not maybe the most charismatic player or the most popular player or the best player, I still think that as a professional player, you can actually do a lot. Shadown's gonna fake a cannon rush. You cheeky boy. You cheeky. Harstem does what you should do against a question mark cannon rush, which is put your probe in the low ground, and then a probe on the probe. As soon as you see a second probe, panic.
Twitch Prime sub received.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh no, he actually built a cannon. He built a forge. That's actually really awkward. Hey, that's not a second gateway. That's not as fast as some export. That's very awkward. So anyways, I was gonna say probe here, sure, and then probe on the probe of your opponent. Should be good enough, but ooh, he was really scared about that. Which makes sense, because Death Aura is a popular map for doing this. Somewhat popular. But I think Shadown kind of gets a little laugh there, right? He kind of cackles his way back up to his base and is like, hey, got you. Got him. Mangaman, 777. Thank you very much for the 15 months. What was I talking about? Oh, the content creator and player thing, that's right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of casters have always said, like, they would be nice if they do it. You know, we've talked about building brands and how players don't really do a whole lot of that. So it's not just our interest in expanding Starcraft and making it better for everyone. It's also our interest in them having successful, you know, careers. That's always cool. And we also get really frustrated when the players go up on stage and they're asked an interesting question and they go, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of frustrating. But even players have talked about other players not really providing much content or, I guess, doing things that could help, you know, build their fan base, basically. You know, Starcraft has been very, it's all about the player, it's not about the stories or the teams, because teams haven't really been a big deal for a while, but what an awkward looking base setup. Can you guys hear that? What the fuck is that? Are they blowing leaves in the hallway of my 3rd story building? Like, what the fuck's happening? Anyways, those two things aside, we actually have a very awkward game. Harstem has incredibly awkward SimCity, yes, but I mean, we're gonna have a Phoenix game. Stargate to Stargate. Phoenix to Phoenix. I would say most of the time, Protoss players don't really want to play a Phoenix game, so they don't. But you can sometimes get an actual Phoenix game. And if it happens, we'll talk more about it. If not, then, you know, no need to talk about it. But big supply block there from Shadown kind of just hurt his chances of winning the Phoenix game. And he was already, I think, losing a little bit. So he will not be winning this. I think they both want to catch each other's oracles. Because that can happen. You know, even if you know your opponent has a Stargate, you can still build an oracle or even 2 and hide them somewhere. So they both want to catch any surprise oracles, and they also want to catch the other person being more aggressive with their Phoenix. So that their reinforcing Phoenix pops out faster, and then they go, aha, I gotcha, I win. But it makes a very awkward game. Shadown goes for a faster Robo, where Harstem actually confidently goes into Twilight Council and Forge. We'll see if Shadown actually wants to play more into a typical, I can't even say typical anymore, an old Immortal Archon style. or if this is him being afraid, because I am a little worried. I mean, PvP is such a hard thing to figure out, both as a, especially as a player with limited information, but even as someone who has all the information. Ah! Well, Adept's get in doesn't really matter with the Phoenix. That's true. Well, instant recall from Harstem. Very smart. One Adept does end up living because of it. So, scouting happened. Oh, Adept over here as well. Oh, that's funny. Scouting happened, right? He didn't see the robo, actually. So, for Harstem, he could be thinking this is exactly what he's doing. He could be thinking Blink +1. But Shadown is actually going into... Oh, no, he's not. I was thinking, oh, is it going like an Immortal Phoenix thing? But... no. He's building Phoenix, but he's not building any Immortals, and he finally gets on a Twilight Council. Oh, there we go, okay. So, obviously if you open up with Phoenix, they're going to get Blink even before the meta was all about Blink. This was the option. It's the only thing you wanted to do against an actual Phoenix player. And then the Phoenix player would get Immortals and go, aha, your Stalkers can't do anything against me because I have Immortals, and if you commit when you're not ready to commit, my Phoenixes will chase you down and kill you. You don't really see too much of this anymore, though. Not that you saw that much of it to begin with, but you don't see too much of this. I think for two reasons. One, Blink is such a default anyways. They could have Blink... sometimes the Blink would be a reaction to the situation, but now Blink is just like what you're supposed to go for. And that two, people have gotten a lot better at Blink Stalkers. Like, just everyone's gotten used to them. So, while you might sit in your high horse being all like, I countered your Stalkers, what you gonna do about it? I guess the proper response for the Blink Stalker guy is to be like, well, not much, but I'm gonna keep expanding and get to Blink, and then eventually get enough units to tackle your Phoenix and go out in the map. And we might even still see Disruptors, but that would be a question mark. His Phoenixes are good against Disruptors, no doubt about that. I feel like you just go for mass, like, Zealot Blink Stalkers, though, actually. Because the Immortals don't do very well against the Zealots, and not only do they not kill Zealots fast enough, but the Zealots pin them back from being able to target fire at the Stalkers. Wouldn't you? And that's where the Archons come in, of course. Shadown's gonna go up to Archons. So for him, it is turning into what was used to be a typical game. Yes, the Phoenixes are one of the reasons that it has turned this way, but it is that Zealot Immortal Archon. Harstem is just gonna match the Zealot Archon portion and then have Stalkers, which, in the past, if this was a situation, you would say, like, oh, well, Stalkers, are they really going to be helpful? And that is still a question. The Stalkers, are they going to be helpful? Do they just get obliterated by everything else in this composition? Or do they actually add a decent amount of damage if they focus fire down the Warp Prism? Those things can actually be very good about having Blink Stalkers. But Harstem has dedicated to a lot of things that aren't army right now. And Shadown is actually moving across the map. A single probe is going to scout this. Hero probe with a scout. So Harstem's going to, of course, immediately start warping in units, but he is actually not prepared for this. His gateways aren't done. His armor supply is about half that of Shadown. And a lot of his armor supply is in Stalkers, which, they're not actually well protected. If it was 7 Stalkers and 20 Zealots, he'd be like, alright, we'll see what happens. But it is more like 20 Stalkers, 13 Stalkers, 3 Zealots. Ooh, Stalkers have a lot of flexibility. They can micro more than anything else in Shadown's army, but I don't know if they can actually do it. Phoenix is getting in there, killing 9 probes is pretty nice too. +2, he's gonna finish faster for Harstem, so he's got that on this side, but Shadown is such a powerful army against what Harstem has. Harstem, yeah, I mean, kind of getting trapped in, like, it feels like I'm back in 2018. The old, yeah, well, you have Stalkers, so, like, how good is it? We don't question how good Stalkers are that much anymore, but absolutely should. And now it's also so much about the Archons as well. Like, the Archons are going to obliterate each other's Zealots. The question is, who obliterates them faster? And Shadown does have far superior Archon count. His +2's not done, though, so that's why he's waffling. Oh, that's a nice blink forward. Excellent there. Harstem was just waiting for the opportunity. You could see it, man. He was like, that army's moving around. I can get the Warp Prism. Brilliant maneuver. So I don't think that actually stops Shadown from necessarily pushing, but of course it stops it for now. He has to rebuild the War Prism. He's gonna make sure the 4th base doesn't come down, but Harstem, despite the lack of supply and, you know, the engagement being kind of a question mark, I can't really predict the engagement, Shadown is not going to push for the win here. He starts up +3, he gets a faster 4th base, and he starts up a Robotics Bay. Could even set up Blink, and I wouldn't be that surprised, but it would take a long time before we actually transitioned into having Blink Stalkers. Fascinating game. Fascinating. Dark Shrine is here for Harstem. Shadown would also get that eventually, you would assume. Disruptor Wars, with the Phoenix numbers being quite limited. At 3? I mean, all they have to do is lift the Disruptor once to be effective, but I don't think we're going to really worry about Phoenix lifting Disruptors. There's the Blink, there's the Dark Shrine. Shadown is moving in. I mean, at some point, you just gotta admit that Disruptor's gonna be better. Right now, maybe they aren't, I would say. If Shadown actually got into a decent engagement position, he would win. Well, especially because he has his own Disruptors. But eventually, if you get enough Disruptors, you're going to tear apart an army like this. 1, 2, they might be able to push the issue. 3, 4, you don't really want to push the issue. This army clumps a lot, and while that's very durable, it's eventually going to die. Zealots running forward are going to get hit by a Disruptor shot. It's nicely done. Harstem scouts the would-be 5th base. Should be fine. Oh, look at that. Awkward Colossus. He must have CC'd. You know, you go for the Archon Morph, but you're on your sentries, and you hallucinate a Colossus. Happens. Harstem still has an army deficit, but it doesn't matter so much anymore with Disruptors in play. 3 Disruptor from the left side was actually a very bold move there from Harstem, but it ends up paying off as he grabs at least 1 Disruptor and a handful of other units, and all of his Disruptors are still well alive. Harstem can't really chase this down. Disruptors are frightening in many different ways. You can't chase down Disruptors unless you absolutely know for sure there's no more ammo left in them. You can't push into Disruptors, again, unless you're absolutely sure they don't have any shots left. Like, it is kind of a lot of the game comes down to counting Disruptor shots. Or figuring out if you can focus fire Disruptors or not, right? But because so much of the game becomes that, I mean, it becomes kind of a stall. That's why PvP has so many late games recently. Nexus is gonna go down. That's an easy target there. It's already weak. Shadown has plenty of bank, though. He did get the superior economy with his positioning around Harstem, right? But Harstem is pretty much caught up. Well, kind of. On 5 bases, he is now with a superior economy to his opponent, but he had the deficit for so long. He's not quite maxed out. Not as much of a bank, but he will get there. Disruptor does not... Oh, wait, that's his own DTs. Huh, just kidding. Disruptor does not hit anything. I was gonna say they don't see the DTs, but... Oops, daisy. What Harstem wasn't seeing was the army movement of Shadown. He does see it now, but it actually got over the left side without his knowledge for a while. First shot comes out from Harstem, so he takes the initial good fight. He's going to recall to get himself on that high ground as opposed to coming back into those Disruptors. And actually, I gotta say, I would never have thought of doing that. Recalling into an army, attacking into is usually like not the greatest thing, but if it avoids coming up against all those Disruptors, then it was a really good option.
Twitch Prime Sabbath received. Thank you for
Harstem playing a really great PvP. He's also denying another base at the bottom left. Splitting up his army. I think he's going to go for harassment. Actually just takes out an Archon and then dies. But Harstem takes out his opponent's base or gets close to it, and he's already moving over in a fleet beacon. He's got to be careful about that. All the resources into the fleet beacon and the Stargate means that not enough resources sometimes to actually take engagements, and I don't think he actually killed this Nexus. He did not. And Harstem is losing his 5th. So Shadown is actually on 6 bases, because he rebuilt his 5th pretty quickly. And Harstem is the one that's struggling. He's got so many disruptors, though. He's looking to collapse in on the army, but he doesn't quite split it well enough, I don't think. You need like 3 disruptors and 4 disruptors or something like that. They are both just going to be coming in kind of head-to-head here. Disruptor count does, oh my god, it's completely even. I don't think it is, though, because Shadown's disruptors are reinforcing as well. I don't see 8 disruptors right here, right now. Shadown has the superior army supply, equal upgrades level that matters for disruptors. Harstem's getting some of the better shots at the actual disruptor engagements. Harstem's also got some DTs headed to the bottom left. That's a lot of defense, so he's not going to bother trying. If there wasn't cannons, then obviously he does do it, but no free Nexus kill there. No observer, uh-oh, and Shadown realizes that. Oh, he's gonna pull back, of course he was. There was no observer. There is one close by. DT blink to try and save at least some of the DT's lives, but also drawing the army to the right side. Shadown tries to move it to the left, but disruptors are on point pretty much, at least in terms of defending area. They're not getting many great shots anymore. But Harstem is at least controlling his half of the map with them, and that is so many. Oh my god, there's so many DTs. What the hell? He's got so many DTs just running right up the middle. Oh no! Oh my god, that was such an effective disruption. Oh, so many DTs died there. So many. I would not be surprised if that was all 13. I guess he used DT Blink to get there. Oh, and while this was happening, there was an engagement. Oh my gosh. Harstem, in the blink of an eye, lost all those DTs and also lost most of his disruptors, it looks like. Wasn't anticipating the army on the right side and the disruptors on the left, even losing some Archons to the AI as he defends his 5th Nexus. Everything going so poorly for Harstem. At least he saves his Nexus, but he's on such a low disruptor count now. He's on the 2 against 9. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding. So 2 against 4. Oh my god. Oh, disruptors, you silly things. He's got a mothership. What the fuck did happen? Harstem's got a mothership and he's got +1 air, working on +2. Oh, he's gonna bleed forward, try and capture that disruptor. He's not gonna be able to grab it. It's still alive, actually. It should die. But it certainly got a lot of damage done. Zealots marching into a choke against Archons usually isn't advisable, but Harstem thinks he's got an advantage, or maybe he realizes there's no observer of his opponent. He actually does. That's why he's moving in so aggressively. Here comes an observer for Shadown, just in time, but hopefully does not get targeted. He's also running back to cannons, so I think Harstem's got to be a little bit careful about actually continuing to push in. Jeez. Harstem pushes back, gives himself some breathing room, and gets some more static defense up at his 5th. But remember that Shadown has been on 6 bases pretty much this entire time. I guess this hasn't really been mining until just now. He's transferring probes, but he's got a lot more mining. Oh boy. RMS 2121. Thank you for that prime sub. Harstem with the aggressive Nexus. I love it. It's not just aggressive. It's not like he's like laughing at his opponent. Like, this is actually his attack path. He wants to take over the space. 1 disruptor shot getting a good hit. Second one actually a good split from Shadown. Harstem now at 6 disruptors to 7, so plenty of firepower there. Shadown's also going to move on to his own fleet peak and realizing that maybe this game isn't going to end, even though it was pretty close to it. I also love that Shadown has included a revelation here. Very good use of having a Stargate already available. It gets sniped, but still. It's going to help against the DTs, yes, but also just in general, being able to tell where your opponent's army is really important. He's actually going to target down every single disruptor. What a bold move here from Shadown. Finally, a disruptor of Harstem gets a good shot, but that was a lot of disruptors that were targeted down. That was a crazy move from Shadown. Are you kidding me? I know it didn't go poorly for him, but like, who would ever decide to do that? That was crazy. Huh. These players. Another good shot from Harstem. Both of them really want to kill each other's bases too. Like, there's a literal tug of war happening right now, and because it is kind of still a very close tug of war, we don't have those gigantic like 20 zealot hit squads trying to force more movement on the map. It is mostly, not entirely, about this engagement right here. DTs are waiting for an opportunity to grab disruptors. You know, because your disruptors are on a hotkey, usually what happens is that they're usually off someplace alone, and DTs could try and jump on top of them and kill them fast enough. Oh, that was a beautiful shot from Harstem. And Shadown ZTs actually decided to go for a run by, but that is about 1 billion cannons, so that's not going to work out very well. Which means that Harstem is on 6 spaces to Shadown 6. Shadown's going to expand to the middle left, and he's going to be denied once that moves. Looks like Harstem was able to jump on top of one of the remaining disruptors. And now Shadown is down to just 1, and it does not have a shot, but 4 more are coming forward, or are they? No! 4 die! Harstem getting such better disruptor traits this game. Just overall, I feel it's always been in his favor. Oh my gosh. Shadown has such a good army supply, but so little of it's in disruptors. Can he get a good enough concave so it doesn't matter? Maybe he can actually push through with just a pure zealot stalker army? Pretty much that never happens. That pretty much never happens. But, you know, in some weird scenarios, I guess it could. That was not it, though. Harstem was still too powerful, too many disruptors. Shadown's gonna have to abandon this base. He's going to lose this base as well. No cancel there. The superior economy he's had for most of this game has dwindled, and he's taken just bad losses over and over again. Harstem ultimately playing the better PvP. Looks like he's going to win this game out, unless something crazy happens, and it certainly can. Disruptors do that, but again, Harstem is winning the disruptor fights. I mean, how are we talking about right now? 16 disruptors have died for Harstem versus 22 of Shadown. It's not crazy imbalanced, but that's an expensive loss. 6 more disruptors is expensive. Thank you, Navums, for the Prime sub. Shadown is trying to move into hopefully an undefended natural in 3rd. Only 3 disruptors isn't so bad, and it looks like 2 of them already shot. Oh, no, he actually... Oh, my God. Oh, he shot the zealot on accident. That's what my eye was paying attention to. He shot the zealot instead of the disruptor, because he would have one-shot a disruptor, no problem, but he shot the wrong thing. Oh, God. Disruptors of Shadown to try and make something work, but this jump on top of the remaining disruptors from Harstem is not going to be pretty. GG is called, and Harstem takes the first game. Good God. So funny. Thank you, Robski, for the Prime sub as well. Hey. Now, 2 points actually, Harstem was straight up losing. He was losing around his 3rd base, and then he was losing after one of the disruptor wars when it didn't go in his favor. But he brought it back so hard. It was that disruptor on the ramp on Harstem's side of the map that killed like 6 of Shadown's disruptors. Yeah. Before that happened, Shadown was in a really good position. Stupid, sexy Harstem hits. Exactly. Ooh, Max Pax is able to qualify. E3 to Vanya. So do you have any other results? We wait for game 2 to be set up. Sort of is facing Stefano in the qualifying match. And yeah, Max Pax won against Vanya. Just about does it. Harstem is ready to go, so we're getting into Jagannatha for that PvP. That was an odd PvP start to finish. Yes, we see a lot of PvP games end because disruptor shots, but to be honest, it felt like that was one of the few games where it really felt like there was more than one or two disruptor shots that got more than expected. It was one of the rare games where I felt like one person really was just straight up winning the disruptor shot war. Usually it's a lot more back and forth, and you can't really tell who's better at the actual disruptors. Usually it's more of like, oh, who's better at army positioning. But, of course, the weirdest thing about that game is that it started off with a Stargate versus a Stargate. It actually started off with a fake cannon rush. And then a Stargate versus Stargate, and then a classic charge lot Immortal Archon fight against a Blink Stalker guy. It did, ultimately, as weird as it was, go in favor of Shadown, but I guess to be, like, fair, it might not have felt such a way for Shadown, because PvP is really difficult to tell what the hell's happening when you don't have all the information and you're not supposed to. So maybe he didn't quite realize he had the army supply advantage that he did when he faced Harstem's army around that third. Maybe he really regrets not chronoing his +2 more, because he probably clicked on Harstem's army and was like, oh, my +2 is so much later. I don't know. But looking back on it, it did seem like a lost opportunity, even though I was actually giving a lot of credit to the Blink Stalker thing. Yet here I am saying, actually, no, it's supposed to lose. But yeah, like, Blink Stalkers have really been figured out in a way that makes them not just lose to something like that. Was that game a perfect example of how Blink Stalkers can save the day? Not exactly, but there was one pretty big example, and that was them sniping the Warp Prism. Which, again, if Shadown was waiting for his +2 to finish, it was like 20 seconds later than Harstem's, and he had to rebuild a Warp Prism, then yeah, I guess that was the strength of the Blink Stalkers. Well, look at what we have here. You got a proxy Stargate from Shadown. Harstem did put a pylon in the top left, but doesn't actually use it. Harstem is doing a damn good job of trying to scout around, but there's so much map and so few probes. He sees a probe coming from the right, and that's awfully suspicious. That's not the scouting path of a probe coming from the main base. No, it ain't. So, very much so check this out first. That would be a brutal proxy Stargate if that was actually up and running. And then he had us continue checking the bottom right. He'll scout it, but he can't do anything about it. So that's the okay thing about Harstem. I think actually it was such a weird probe positioning. I think you just default to thinking it's a Stargate. But it looks like Harstem's going to try and get away with not doing anything about it. This is actually... And he didn't scout the Stargate. So he sees a later Nexus, which, you know, there's only so many things that get a later Nexus. If it's going to get a Nexus at all. I guess maybe the assumption is that they would wait for 2 Oracles, so that's actually very possible, but yeah, so I was like kind of going, oh, this is awkward, because 2 Adepts are what Harstem opened up with. So clearly they can't really do anything about the Oracles coming in. And then he went for 2 Sentries, which seems really greedy for not quite knowing what your opponent was doing. But, I mean, Shadown doesn't know that Harstem's not defaulting to that. You know, we do see people actually just build shield batteries. So, well, maybe Shadown's 1 Oracle could have done damage. His 2 Oracles aren't going to do anything. I mean, Harstem actually perfectly responding here. Isn't even going to lose a single probe. Finally, that he wasted 2 hallucinations, though. I think that was a misclick, but it looks weird because it's 2 differently timed ones. I don't know. Uh-oh, the Adepts that I was worried about him having actually finding a lot of success in the main. Shadown not walling off, too busy trying to micro his own Oracles. Gets no damage on with his Oracles, gets 6 probes of his own lost, and he has a later Nexus. So, you know, in sum, this not so good for Shadown. That's not a good game. starts up Blink on the same time as his opponent, he will always be looking for opportunities to use these oracles, and sometimes, you know, you don't realize coming into the natural and you're in the main, they do grab 6 or 7 probes. But it's going to be much later than Harstem grabbed 6 or 7 probes. Like, it's not going to be as impactful. And you can already see, like, one of the direct things here of both Shadown affording these oracles and having not done any damage with them, as well as him taking damage. His Forge is going to be a lot later. His Nexus is going to be a lot later. I don't know what you do from here. I don't know what would be the stronger option. Oh, we're having the medevac thing again. Ah, see? Yeah, exactly. They don't want to be buddies. They want to hug. Anyways, so the Forge does come down for Shadown. He is going to get a 3rd Nexus. He is just going to play the I'm going to get everything later, but maybe that's okay type of game, because I don't know what else you would do. There's not, like, a whole lot of other options. I guess maybe you could, like, I guess you could just warp in. Again, as a Protoss player, like, you are intentionally not warping in many situations because you're getting other stuff. So he could just continuously warp in and try and, like, overwhelm Harstem, but I just don't see that happening this late into the game. So that wasn't an option. Maybe you try and do, like, a charge attack off of 3 bases and hope that they're not quite prepared or they're going into, like, a robo. Yeah, I can't, I'm throwing these out, but I think actually Shadown just has to be like, okay, well, that sucks, but I don't know. Hopefully we get the Disruptors, and then it's anyone's game at that point. I do like him trying to use his Stalkers, but he has to realize that his opponent probably has equal or close enough to equal number of Stalkers. If he ever overstays his welcome, it'll be a disaster. Looks like one of those oracles died, by the way. Oh yeah, no, I knew that actually. This oracle going for a defensive stasis trap. Harstem's moving across the map. Don't see a warp prism. None's in production, so actually kind of interesting. He's moving across the map with his sentries then. With his stalkers, yeah, you know, that's fair. That's what you do with stalkers, but what's with the sentries? Hallucination goes all the way around, and the sentry is trying to follow suit. What is he trying to do with this? It's probably something really cool, and I'm just not thinking about it right now. No, I don't know what this was. I don't think 2 sentries are gonna make a big difference. And they are slow, so they're at risk of being, you know, taken out. Oh, whatever. Harstem is getting a faster 4th base. He's already halfway to his +2 as Shadown finishes his +1. Harstem is not going too quickly into robotics bay production. He doesn't even have a robotics base, so there's a really big difference. Now, I mean, you could say this is, like, not the right thing to do, but I'm pretty much going to guarantee it's not a mistake. We've seen this from other Protoss players. I kind of equate it to, like, a TVT, where the best thing to do is to go into Viking Liberator after Marine Tank, but if someone decides to just play around more so with sacrificing Marine Tank, that is a fair way of playing. It's kind of what it feels like when someone does this. They add on the gateways, they add on the Dark Shrine, they add on charge faster, you know, whatever, like, and then they just play around with that more than Robotics Bay. Harstem is going to get one. And a second robo, but Shadown actually gets the Disruptors, where I think he needs to be. He's always been slightly behind in this game. Big ol' warping in the main. Overcharge's gonna save the cannon, which also provides the vision, only for so long! No! Oh, the Disruptor kills his own probes. Oracle has to be used to help out with the DTs, and while this is going on, the 4th base is under attack. Harstem with a very good 1-2 punch. Even has those sentries for the Guardian Shield. How about that? The Warp Prism was targeted down, so at least Shadown doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And this is still a game that is recoverable because Disruptors. You know, 4th base dying is not great, but Disruptors save the day. Come on. And that was a very powerful engagement. I mean, I also was looking at Harstem's main army so much I didn't realize a Warp Prism was sneaking its way in there. And I guess that's exactly what he was trying to do to Shadown. The old sleight of hand trick, right? Look over here when you actually have the card up your sleeve elsewhere. Clever. Shadown's gonna try and force an engagement over on the right. Gonna cause a recall that could be very awkward. Disruptor is here, not gonna get the greatest shots though, and I think Blink is available. He's not gonna use Blink though. Doesn't have to yet. He's walked away from the Disruptors, blinking aggressively on the remaining Stalkers that weren't recalled. Is a very good move there from Shadown. He has a very super tiny armor supply lead, but a good blink forward to take out a Disruptor from Harstem. Helps take out an Immortal as well. And Shadown still does not have a 4th base up, so if this doesn't work, maybe he just taps out. I think even a couple of units killed a pylon. Harstem's getting charged, getting +3. Shadown's +2 only just finished. And his Disruptor count, despite starting the Disruptor production faster, he didn't have double Robo, so Harstem's already beaten him out in the Disruptor count. Shadown's army movement is definitely something you can applaud. It's the best thing he can do right now is hope that he forces Harstem to take awkward engagements, but he doesn't have enough volatility, I think, in his army. You know, that's where Disruptors come in. Or maybe if he actually had a bajillion Stalkers and Harstem underestimated Stalkers against Disruptors, that he doesn't have Disruptors, he doesn't have as many Stalkers. He no longer has any Immortals trying to help him out, and while the supply doesn't look that different, it is supply being greater for Harstem, upgrades being greater for Harstem, and technology being greater for Harstem, so... Oh my good god. Surprise! This is like 6 Stalkers of that, and this one's also gonna get something. So many Disruptors. Good splits, good focus fire. Shadown trying to make something happen, but equally good focus fire there from Harstem to take no damage from his opponent's army, and that's gonna be it, right? Not quite. Shadown gonna hold on, but it's kind of it. It's kind of over. Harstem's already moving on to Stargates. Plenty of vision as well, so no surprise Disruptors. With charge finished up, you could actually just try and enforce the issue with charge lots. I mean, Harstem hasn't even used his Dark Shrine yet. Oh, well, no, he did actually use a couple of DTs. But he's not building 20 DTs and trying to really, I guess out-multitask isn't quite the right word, because there's a lot of multitasking going on right now, but he could try hitting 2 locations, 3 locations at once. He is just going to force the issue on the front lines, eventually have too much army. I love that they're fighting around the acceleration zone, though. That's almost providing, like, a comedic effect. There's, like, Benny Hill in the background. The Stalker's not the only thing that gets faster in that, though. The Disruptor shots are also getting faster. It's like playing Starcraft on faster Urs. It's not faster, it's not fastest, it's fastest Urs. Doesn't look really pretty. Looks kind of stupid. Harstem now has a 50 supply lead and is still winning these Disruptor fights. Carriers are on the way. I guess the carriers are gonna force Shadown to tap out. He's I mean, he's on 4 bases. Although, oh my god. Oh. That's a warping right there. Yeah, Shadown does have 4 bases. He does have Disruptor technology. He's thinking, you know, what if? But he's not getting any good engagements. And now he's being overrun his main. So Harstem does finally split up his army. And there's not much that Shadown can do against that. And very desperate warpins coming in on the main. Shadown actually banking quite a lot. He has plenty of gateways. Oh, not a great blink over there. Great blink from Harstem on the left side, though. And this kills the Shadown. GG. Harstem playing some damn fine PvP. It kind of started with the Adepts getting in and dealing damage. I think. It's, something else had to have happened to recover from that, and nothing else did. You could also say the 2 Oracles not doing anything was totally not worth, and that was a bad start. And yeah, but I think it made it much, much worse losing your own probes to the Adept of your opponent. and then he was just like permanently behind. And I was really trying to rack my brain for something that you could do to catch up in a circumstance like that. You know, like if you're in a different matchup, maybe you could... if you're behind in TvP, you go for like a Liberator Turtle. Or if you're behind in ZVT, you can burrow Baneling Bombs. I don't know, whatever. But I was like, what do you do in that situation when you're already committed to Blink and expanding? I guess you could get a faster Dark Shrine and hope that DTs really are a surprise that fast, but yeah, you just stay behind. You just stay behind, and the best hope is to get the Disruptors and hope your Disruptors are better, but they have not been in this best of 5 so far. Not that they've been like straight up terrible, but it feels like every time you really catch those Disruptor wars, it is favorable for Harstem. Or he makes a mistake, but it's not as big of a mistake as Shadown makes. And it's not that Shadown has poor PvP. We're kind of in the situation where, like, you know, Korean TVT, every Korean has good TVT, but some Koreans have better TVT. It's kind of a situation for Europe and their Protoss. It's like everyone has to be good at PvP because there's so many Protoss right now. But some people are better than others at PvP. Anyways. I don't think Shadown's bad at PvP. I think I would even say that I feel like he's having an off day. But keep in mind, I cast like a billion Protosses, so I could be confusing him. But I think he's having an off day with that in particular, the actual micro engagements. Whereas on the flip side, Harstem is having a wonderful day and is doing a very good job. In the bottom left, down 0-2, he is the blue Protoss Shadown. On the top right of Pillars of Gold, we got Harstem. Shadown on his last life in this series, in this qualifier, but with 2 more qualifiers, Shadown is one of those guys you're looking to almost always make it in. 8 from this qualifier, 8 from number 2 qualifier, and 4 people from the number 3 qualifier. That's a lot of people that can make it through. To be fair, it's because there's a lot of good players in Europe that they have so many slots. But I do consider Shadown up there in the top 32. By the last qualifier for Europe, I mean, I don't know how to not be rude and say, like, it's not the tippity-top anymore, you know? You already got the tippity-top European players already seated in. You know, the Here Marine, the Showtime. They're not even bothered with the qualifiers, and then after 2 qualifiers, you have gotten 16 amazing players already qualified through. The last qualifier is supposed to be, like, for a guy like Shadown, or let's say, like, a Lambo. I think it's supposed to be, like, well, I definitely win this one. Got bad luck in the first one. Second one is a bad day for me, but I definitely win this one, right? So still plenty of chances here for Shadown. Now, with Pillars of Gold, and Pillars of Gold means that there's a possibility of the faster Nexus, and that's exactly what Harstem is doing. He went for a Gateway Nexus. You can even try Nexus first. But he didn't quite do that. So usually on Pillars of Gold, it is advisable to go for a very early Probe Scout, even though in PvP you usually don't go for like a Pylon Scout, right? You go for a Gateway Scout, or even later. Shadown is going to try and do something, but Harstem immediately finding it, I think just got is that really where I guess? I guess the tricky thing is Harstem won't have a lot of production. Harstem can pump out 1 Stalker. He can't. He doesn't have enough gas. He can pump out 1 Zealot. Oh, because he went for a Stargate Fat. Oh, well, either way. I was going to say that I guess it is maybe okay for Shadown to do this because there's not a lot of firepower right now for Harstem. He cannot produce 2 units and try and target down that pylon. And even if he did, that's where Shadown's Adepts are going to try and, you know, do some damage instead. But that wasn't even, like, disregard that whole point. It doesn't even matter. Because what's mattering is that Harstem scouts a Stargate, and a very powerful response against a Stargate is another Stargate. You're only slightly behind in the production, but you have defense advantage with, like, shield batteries, and you have the superior economy. This does usually lead into a shield battery, lulz, Keck, XD fight around the natural. The previous attempts I've seen of this, the defender has won both. It's been a while since I've seen the attacker win with this, but we'll see what happens. Harstem actually, I was wondering if this would be a problem. He does have an odd wall off now, but as long as he has shield batteries, I think that's the most important thing. First shield battery is going to be targeted down. There's only one pylon powering everything as well, so that could be a little bit scary. But here comes the Void Ray of Harstem. Dun, 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 dun. Shadown's Harstem goes back to its mama, gets a little nap, and comes back all energized. He's going to try and take the fight. Shield battery on the low ground actually finishes, so Harstem thought he was going to win that because he had 2 stalkers. But the shield battery actually saves the life of his opponent. And also, by the way, while this was happening, Adepts were in the main base killing 10 probes. And I think. I think Harstem loses. He had a very strong response, I think. But it could have been one of those weird things where the faster you respond to something, the more you actually get messed up. That can happen sometimes. I think in this specific circumstance, it was the Adepts that just screwed him over. Well, actually, I think he just loses. I think you actually lose. You lose that Void Ray. I mean, it's silly, it's stupid, but I think that's actually the case. I think he lost and he lost the Void Ray. And then the Adepts killed 10 probes, so it's not great. But, yeah. Okay, alright. 2 stalkers being real heroes right now. Ooh, he's gonna try to save it! Oh! Not quite, GG. Alrighty then, Shadown strikes back. All is fair in love, Starcraft 2, and cheese. That's funny. How is that determined? Why does Europe get more spots? I'm mostly fine with it. Just curious how they know more good players are in Europe. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm talking down to you, but it's because more good players do live in Europe. They are Europeans. Europe is the stronger of the 2 big non-Korean regions. Europe is the strongest of the non-Korean regions. I could have just said it that way. North America is weaker for multiple reasons. Australia is weaker. Latin American's weaker. Like, it is actually just a fact. So, it was pretty much determined, I guess to go into like the history of it, it's pretty much been determined that Europe has been better than the rest of the regions outside of Korea since 2013? I think there was a strong case for North Americans in the beginning of StarCraft 2's career, because so many North Americans were in Brood War, where a lot of Europe and their esport was CSGO, or Counter-Strike, I should say. Not CSGO. CS 1.6. And then the, how to say, the Korean invasion happened, where all of the MLGs were won by not the people who could get there fast and who could get there without jet lag and who could play in the open brackets easier and cheaper. They were being won by the Koreans. And then they tried to region lock, but the Koreans just came over here and still won. Whereas Europe, funnily enough, is like more landlocked. It's more server locked. That's the better way to put it. It's more server locked. Koreans can come over to North America and still play on the Korean server and get all the benefits, reap all the rewards of that. Whereas the Koreans who moved to Europe during that phase actually did what it intended to, which was elevate the ladder for the rest of the people in that region. So I think Europeans are already going to be, they were already getting better than North Americans basically in the latter half of 2011. But I guess it was really cemented in like 2013. But I'm open to being convinced otherwise. So, still potentially the last game. In the bottom right, down 1, he is Shadown. In the top left of Romanticide, we have Harstem. Are Void Rays actually better than before? They are undeniably better because they got buffed. They are cheaper and they are faster. They are literally better. Are they better as in they are actually more usable? They are making an impact in StarCraft 2? Also, yes. It's kind of clear now we have many more openers and options thanks to the Void Ray. It's not the drastic difference that some people thought it was going to be. It's not what determines late game PvC engagements, like I think Blizzard was kind of hoping for, but there are different openers. So, anything interesting happening here? Not as much. 2 Gateway to 2 Gateway. Pillars of Gold is one of those unique maps that has the different start option. There was another map. Oh, Death Aura. Death Aura also sometimes people play around with the faster Nexus, but I think because it's also a playground for cannon rushing, they were like, never mind. We gotta worry more about cannon rushing, which we saw earlier in the series. So it really is just Pillars of Gold that provides the I guess just the perfect mix of what, high grounds, ramp leading into the natural, as well as distance between bases. I think that provides like that actual attempt at Nexus firsting or Nexus after Gateway. But Shadown's response is strong. I just actually hadn't seen it work until then. Saw it work once when it first was made, and then I saw it work just now. That's a pretty long gap. Twilight Council is already on the way for Shadown. So this could be... It could be something... It could be a Dark Shrine. Like, the pro being out here kind of says Dark Shrine. Sometimes you see a very fast Twilight Council because they think they can go into a very fast Blink. Blink is usually the ultimate goal in PvP nowadays. The downside of getting very fast Blink is, well, if they go for a Dark Shrine, then you're screwed. And then I think if you go for that fast of a Twilight Council, maybe you're not getting as much economy. Well, regardless, like, this is for a Dark Shrine, 100%. So now, like I just said, if Harstem says, you know what, I don't think I'm worried about a Dark Shrine, I'm going for a Twilight Council and a Forge, which usually comes down kind of at the same time, and I think he is going to do it because I feel like I'd already see it. Oh, no! Oh, okay. I was just about to say I think it already would have happened, but he does get a Robo. That's so important. So a bunch of Adepts just come forward, by the way, and Shadown saw that with Hallucination. The option here is basically to pack it up from the natural and go into the main. Your Sentry's got to stay in the main too, and then build a 7x core against this. Shadown might still be able to do damage with his Dark Shrine, but it's not exactly the most ideal scenario. It's not a hard counter, but we'll see if he can still do damage, because at the end of the day, Harstem doesn't know for sure that this is a Dark Shrine. He went for a bunch of Adepts, which means he's not having any hallucinations in the main. Even if he had hallucinations in the main, Shadown could try and fake out Blink and +1. I mean, even by having the Forge, he's kind of like saying, yeah, I'm totally going to do not Dark Shrine. But he is going to do Dark Shrine, then invest into those technologies. He's actually been able to block with shield batteries so far because he has so many units here. Didn't have to build any 7x core. But he has so many units because he's warping in, and if he's warping in over here, then he's not warping in his DTs, is he? So we still don't see any. This proxy pylon is a little sus. It's a little suspicious. You do not see the warping in Dark Templar unless you actually pay attention to the shimmer.
Glorious combat is upon us.
Yep, it's not gonna happen. Adept's gonna the natural, killed a couple of those probes. Hallucination sees a Robo available, so Shadown's really not committing to many more DTs. Plus, again, he's had to defend against these Adepts. So one DT is not going to do very much at all. Literally nothing. Good forceful to trap it, ensure it's death. Not the worst thing in the world, because Shadown only committed to one Dark Templar. In fact, with Harstem opening up with a Robo, and then also opening up with the Adept attack that really hasn't done that much, Shadown still comes out here with a slightly faster blink and +1. Although he is later to the Nexus, but only by a little bit. Hey, Dipster, maybe finally gonna get some damage done. 3's still not exactly what they would want. That's a total of 6. No, I don't think that's what you want. The Adepts also have this, like, you know, they could have messed up Shadown's build or gotten crucial scouting, or simply put, they could have entered into the main base because Shadown messed up, but they haven't done any of that. So, I guess ultimately not super worth it. Observer in the main is going to see exactly what's going down. It's going to see a Robo finally on the way. Confirmation of the third Nexus, they get floated over it. And the game goes into Blink Stalker versus Blink Stalker. So first one to move out on the map with Stalkers is Shadown, but Harstem's not going to be far behind. He actually has 2 Immortals because he went for that Robo opener, so in a direct fight, unless something really weird happens, he will be winning that one. Observer sees Observer, kills Observer. 2 Adepts going to try and do some damage, but there's a lot here already. Yep. Total getting that nice round 10 probes with the damage. Looks like Harstem found the Dark Shrine, which is kind of annoying, actually. You do want to rebuild that, or just have never lost it in the first place. Robotics Bay on the way for Harstem. Everyone's grabbing all their gases. Shadown actually goes for a much faster 4th. Doesn't even look like Harstem's posture to take a 4th. Shadown actually saved his Dark Shrine, but I think it's a goner. It's eventually just gonna be a goner. Just prepare to rebuild it, I think. Robotics Bay for Shadown. Again, Dark Shrine is gonna die. We are waiting for the action, guys. We are waiting for Disruptor on Disruptors. 4th base comes forward for Harstem, whereas Shadown went for the more backed away, tucked in, bottom left. It's the only big difference. Charge is faster for Harstem as well, which comes into effect with those charge lot run-bys and warp-ins, but also can sometimes affect the main engagements. The waiting game. Shadown not too quick to adding on a Dark Shrine, and I'm actually fully fine with that. I think eventually you do, of course, but right now there's not going to be room to build, you know, 10 DTs to get some real action done. You're hoping that they haven't built any cannons whatsoever in their mineral lines at this point. 1 Disruptor actually pulling Shadown back, but here comes his own Disruptor. It's going to get a single Stalker, so not very impressive attack there from Harstem. His 3 Immortals also get worse and worse as time goes on. It's kind of inevitable that they get killed off. However, with the still very small Disruptor counts, I guess there's a possibility they really do help. There's the lack of cannons I was talking about. That was the only thing that was going to let 1 DT at a time deal damage. Otherwise, you have to start warping in 4 or 5. I guess that was an Adept or something. Harstem's actually the one that lost probes, not his opponent. But since they're both on pretty high probe counts anyways, I don't think minor damage really matters. +2 finishing up for both parties at the same time. A far superior Disruptor, Stalker count. So he's talking about Disruptor counts, not Stalker counts. Harstem's warped in more Stalkers, though. Which, again, like, it's so much more about Disruptors a lot of the time, but if you have a concave of Stalkers, if you have the ability to one-shot Disruptors and your opponent doesn't, that's a really big deal. More DTs are coming in, but also more cannons have been made. Finally clears with the DT in the main 2 and starts his +3. Harstem is still the only one with access to Dark Shrine. He's also getting Warp Prism speed and a Warp Prism. I love Shadown's high ground Disruptor. Very clever. The Disruptor is seen, so it's not going to get very much done. Harstem got a bigger tap on Shadown's Stalkers there. Shadown goes for a forward 5th. Harstem also going for a forward 5th. So they are once again causing that tug-of-war situation. It's not so much about maneuvering around the map. I mean, it is supposed to be a large part of PvP, but the way they're expanding, they're kind of asking to be more just like head-to-head. That is a very large run by. I love that he includes the Immortals. They aren't really going to help out in the main engagements anymore, but they can absolutely help tear down shield batteries and cannons. So that's a really smart move, making that a little more potent. It was already a pretty big deal. Shadown is forced to retreat back into this. He's going to lose a Disruptor or 2 as well. Both Disruptors going down. Or maybe that was a Disruptor and a Stalker. Either way. The run by has done a significant amount of damage. It's killed Tag Defense. It's killed 19 probes. It got a couple of army units. Shadown is still holding steady at a decent army supply to his opponents. He's down 13 workers. And he is waiting for the moment where he can strike. But with that many Disruptors in play, I don't think there is a moment where Shadown can pounce. He is up against 10 Disruptors, having only 3 of his own. That's not so good. Oh, he's gonna pounce on it! Shadown the madman! I guess there's only 8 Disruptors on the field or in the front lines, but damn, how would you ever make the decision? It's the second time I've been like, Shadown, really? You knew? You knew there wasn't any Disruptor shots? Good God. This guy's much better at counting ammo than I am. So he actually tears down a couple of Disruptors, makes it a more of an even fight, but it is still 6-5. And Shadown did take a couple of losses on the stock count. Very even army supplies. Maybe this is his time to shine. Guardian Shield usually doesn't matter in these situations, but as Disruptor counts get lower and lower, it absolutely does. +1 is already on the way for Harstem's heir as he once again plans to transition. But right now, he needs to survive. The second Disruptor not going to get his shot off. Well, the Zealots do get some nice hits. Usually, they're just taken out without doing too much. Oh, no! Shadown's a big attention, and there it is. There it is. I think Shadown thought there weren't that many Disruptors. I think he just miscounted the Disruptors. GG. He didn't know what to look out for. Oh, man. Yeah, Harstem just kept winning the Disruptor Wars, man. That's frustrating, because it seems to happen almost randomly. You're just like, no, there's bullshit unit. It's stupid. PvP is stupid. And that's fair. If the players want to